now. Okay. So, like I said, I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Kirsten, and I've been teaching TOEFL for a very long time, about over 10 years. And I started my journey teaching in Los Angeles. I was working at Kaplan, and that's when I first started teaching TOEFL. And then, of course, I moved to teaching online. I am from, well, I'm originally from Connecticut, but today I am in Sedona, Arizona, coming to you from there. So I want to talk to you today about the main idea question, because I know a lot of students ask me about this question, and maybe they're getting 2 out of 3 correct, which means that you get 1 point, right? So if you have to choose 3 main idea questions and you only get 1 right, you get 0 points. And if you get 2 correct, you get 1 point. If we get all 3 correct, you get 2 points on this question. Oh, yeah. So it is a really important question to strive for, because it is worth more than, let's say, a fact detail or inference question, right? They're only worth 1 point. So let's today just dig in. I want to teach you some techniques of how to approach this question in maybe some new ways that you might not have thought about before, or might not have tried before. And I know it's a little bit challenging, because the way I'm going to present this is really, we're not going to go through questions number 1 through 9 first. So usually we start at the beginning of the text, we work our way through. So by the time we get to main idea, we already have a brief understanding of the text, right? We already kind of know what's going on. So it almost makes it easier. In this class today, we're not going to go through the text. We're not going to go through questions 1 through 9. We're just diving into main idea. But hopefully by the end of this class, you'll have some confidence of how you can do this without even knowing, right, all of the stuff. All right, so I'm going to mute somebody because I'm hearing a little feedback. So if you're not on mute yet, I'm just going to mute you. Ah. All right. Now some people are still coming on here. Okay, great. So let's dive in, and I encourage you to take some notes if that helps you. If not, just absorb, right? I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to make you guys go up here. Okay, so let's take a look at the first tip I'm going to give you, right? Tips for getting this right. So the first thing that you want to do is look at the main idea sentence that TOEFL provides. So TOEFL will write a main idea at the very beginning, right? This is a main idea, and now choose 3 more main ideas. Some students don't even read the question, right? They just go right to A, B, C, D, E, and F and start to look. But reading this topic sentence is such a good idea, because it gives you an idea of what TOEFL thinks is the best idea. So you want to align your sentences with that main idea sentence. All right, so I want to go through an example with you. This is a very easy example, but if you saw this sentence, many factors lead to desertification, what you would do is look for other sentences that have factors that lead to desertification, right? And if you don't know what desertification is, if you look at the first part there, desert, right? It's the process of land becoming desert. So let's look at these 2, all right? And I want you guys to participate. Write in the chat which one of these sentences would be in alignment with the main idea. Remember, we're looking for factors that lead to desertification. So we've got excessive animal grazing can hasten soil erosion and result in infertile areas. Lots of good vocabulary words in there, by the way. So you got animals grazing, eating on the grass, It hastens, it quickens soil erosion, so that means the soil is breaking down, wearing down, becoming dry and old, right? And result in infertile areas, areas that can't grow food. And then we have cows eat grass. So which one would be, we got some chats coming in, good. Which one would be the best answer for a factor? I'm going to just take a peek here. Yeah, A, awesome. That's the factor. That's the thing that's explaining how desertification happens. Perfect. Let's go on. We're going to do another one. Here's our sentence. Radon can seep into a building where its decay products can lead to health problems. So radon goes into a building, its decay products can lead to health problems. So probably what you want to look for here is radon causing health problems. Okay, so you want to find sentences that match that idea. Let's look at, sorry, let me expand my screen and roll down here. Let's look at some sentences. Okay, and you guys are going to put your answers in the chat. I only put 4 here. I know on TOEFL is going to be 6, but we're just warming up. Although radon can enter a building in many different ways, it also escapes through cracks in the foundations. Now, to me, I don't really get, there's no mention of the health problem, right? If it escapes, it's really not a problem, right? So let's try B. Concentrations of the radon byproducts attach themselves to particles in the air inside buildings and are breathed into the lungs. Okay, so we've got inside buildings, into a building, breathed into the lungs, and we got byproducts, which related to decay products, right? So that might indicate a health problem, right? If we've got this radon breathing into the lungs, that might result in a health problem. So I can't get rid of this one yet. That might be a match. How about this one? Radon, let me move my screen here, does not cause lung cancer because it is chemically inert and therefore readily dissolves in the blood, where it is eventually expelled. Wait, so radon does not cause any harm, does not cause lung cancer, does not lead to a health problem. So that wouldn't really be a match, right, to our main idea here. Let's try this one. The byproduct of alpha particles, are too heavy to disperse through the tissues, so they accumulate in the lungs where they kill or damage lung cells. Okay, so we've got some harm, right? We've got some health problems coming right here. So if you are selecting 2 of the 4, and I'm just going to pop myself in the chat here and see what you're doing. Which ones are you choosing here? Yeah, we got D, we got D, we got B, B, B and D. You guys are right. Exactly. Those are matches, right? And just trust yourself, right? Know that you, ooh, if someone could mute themselves, that would be helpful. Know that you didn't even read anything, right? Nothing of the text. You are just simply matching and selecting a sentence that's in alignment with what the main idea TOEFL sentence is, right? Okay, so let's do one with now fully 6, and you're going to choose 3. Let's do it. Okay, so we've got our sentence here in bold. Scientists have proposed several methods. Okay, I'm going to highlight that word. I want you to pay attention to several methods that birds use for orientating themselves during their seasonal migrations. Okay, so we are going to look for the methods that are used for orientation, how birds get around when they migrate. All right, so I'm going to scroll up here and I'm going to go through each one with you guys, and you can feel free, if you're sure about an answer choice, you drop it in the chat. We got birds not only migrate north or south, depending on which hemisphere they live in, but they also migrate along coastal regions or in and out of mountainous areas. Now, that might be true according to the text, north or south, that sounds right. They migrate on coastal regions, but does it describe a method that they use? Does it say how they get there? Does it say how they get north or south? Not really, but let's go on. Let's look for some more methods. Birds' ability to detect gradations of polarization patterns in sunlight could give them a way. Oh, here's a way, right? Here's a method for determining direction. So they use these gradations of polarization patterns, whatever that is. We didn't read about it, right? But they're mentioning a way that they orient, that they determine their direction. Okay, let's see what C says. Changes in both the weather and the length of day can cause the birds' bodies to make physical changes to prepare them for the long flights. Okay, changes in weather cause physical changes. Does it explain how they get around? Not really. It's like they're getting ready, but it doesn't say how they get to their destination, how they orient themselves, how they know direction. So I'm going to skip this one for now. It doesn't seem like a method. The principal reason for birds to migrate. Okay, I just read that first part. The reason why they migrate. Does it tell me the method, the way, the how? Not really, right? They're just saying the reason why birds migrate is that most bird species are not adapted to harsh winter conditions. So this is not telling me how they get there. What about this one? The star patterns and the way the stars rotate around the fixed position of the pole star could give birds the direction in which to navigate. Oh, here's a method, right, that they're navigating. They're using the star patterns. That's how. Okay, what's F? Birds may use their knowledge of the features of the landscape. They use their knowledge of the features of the landscape, although this seems unlikely given the bird's distance, the distance birds migrate, sorry. So in this one, we do have a mention of how they would migrate, even though it doesn't seem likely. But we still have a method. They're using their knowledge of the features of the landscape. That's how they're getting around, right? So all of these, the E and F, I'm going to highlight this so it's really clear. E, F, and then we've got B. Those would all be matching these several methods, right? Those all meant, and then A and C and D didn't mention a method that they use, right? How we doing? Is this making sense? Yay! B, E, F, awesome. You guys are rocking it. Okay, so notice the main idea sentence, okay? That is one really, really helpful way that you can focus in on your main idea. Okay, because some of those sentences just won't be a match for that main idea sentence that TOEFL provides. Now, other strategies, right? You have a lot of tools in your tool belt for TOEFL. You need to employ other things that you want to eliminate things, right? You want to get rid of sentences that are not main ideas. And in order to do that, you want to eliminate details, okay? So how do you know which is a detail and which is a main idea? We're going to talk about that a little bit in a moment. But for right now, you can think of this detail as something that maybe is mentioned once. Maybe it's, I wrote here, located in the middle of the paragraph, or it's just a one-time mention. If it's mentioned in more than one paragraph, or especially, and we're going to do some skim practice in a moment, but if it's mentioned in the first paragraph or the last paragraph, in the first sentence, right, of a paragraph, that's encapsulating the main idea of that paragraph, right? But if it's mentioning really something very specific, like a detail thing that was mentioned one time, that's how you know, okay, this is probably a detail and not a main idea. It might be true, but you would have to eliminate it, right? Because we just want to focus on big picture main ideas. We're going to eliminate anything that is false, right? If you remember from the reading, oh yeah, that's the opposite of what the reading says. We want to get rid of that, obviously. And then we want to get rid of anything that is not mentioned in the passage, right? Extreme answer choices, I'm bringing this up here as a little reminder. We want to make sure that we eliminate anything that has something extreme or limiting. So only, always, never. These would be examples of extreme words. So I want you to take a look just to hone our extreme elimination skills. Take a look at A and B, all right? And I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to think about this, all right? One of these answer choices has an extreme word. So I want you to drop in the chat which one is extreme. A. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome on it. Yeah. And that word that makes it, yeah, the word that makes it extreme is must. Hi there. Someone's on unmute, so I'm just going to mute you. Okay. All right. So today's ecologists recognize that ecological communities must be precisely, this is extreme, right? So if you see that kind of thing happening, it's a red flag. I'm not saying 100% of the time you're going to eliminate it, but it's a red flag like, whoa, did the text really say it must be? Or did the text say something different, right? So yeah, in this case, we would eliminate this choice and B would be a better selection for a main idea. Okay, so again, to review, we're eliminating details not mentioned, too extreme, and false statements. We're paying close attention to the main idea sentence that TOEFL provides and matching it, right? Now the other skill, oh yeah, this one is an important one, right? If you're stuck between two answer choices and you know for sure both are true according to the text, you're going to choose the statement that's more general. So this goes back to what we were saying before about knowing the difference between a detail and a more general statement. You want to zoom out and say, okay, what is the big picture here? Okay, I'm going to give you two sentences and I'm going to give you a moment. And I want you to drop in our chat here which sentence is the more general sentence. Ooh, yeah, A. Awesome, you guys, you're so on top of it. Perfect. So yeah, critics of preschool programs argue that these programs put pressure on children. Okay, so we've got critics here. Here we've got this specific critic, right? David is a critic of publicly funded preschool programs. So it might be true. I don't know. We didn't read the text, right? It might be true. But this statement here, the A selection, is the more general one. So if I were choosing between A and B, I'd have to select A and discard B. Okay. So use that strategy as well. So again, we've got read the main idea of the text. We go through, we're going to eliminate details, false and not mentioned, and extreme answer choices. When we're trying to decide between two, we're going for the more general. Now, the last skill here that we're going to take into consideration for today is skimming. And skimming is a really good skill to have, right? You not only want to improve your comprehension skills, reading for detail, but you also want to know how to access main ideas, how to get the big picture overall of what the text is doing. And I hear a lot of students reporting on the test these days that the test is asking something like, you know, what is the purpose of the overall, the whole passage, right? If you do a skim, you'll know how that passage is organized. You'll know how to approach that question. You'll know how to answer it because you're looking at the big picture. All right, so skimming, if you haven't done it, we're going to do it right now. It's a way to pull out keywords from each topic sentence of the text. And what I mean by topic sentence is the first sentence, right, of each paragraph. And this will help you select your correct answer choices. So, I know a lot of students are concerned about time. I don't have time to do a skim. If you practice this skill, you're going to become faster at it, okay? So all it takes is a little bit of practice. You can take what I'm teaching you today and use this on a lot of texts that you're practicing with. And you'll become faster and you'll become better at pulling out the keywords, I promise, okay? The trick is not to get so bogged down with all the stuff, just letting your eyes go over the passage. So we're going to look at, I'm going to keep this up and just put it to the side. We're going to look at a text right now and skim it together and see how that helps us get to the main idea. I want to do this text over here. So we're going to take a look there. And I'm going to write down what I would do if I were doing the TOEFL test and I wanted to skim this passage. I am going to show you what my notes will look like. Okay, I'm going to kind of bear with me as I set up my little note-taking screen. Okay, so I'm doing something like that. Okay. All right, so if I look at just this first sentence, right, I've got at the end of this period, so I might just write an abbreviation to help me remember. Okay, we're talking about this period, it's 10,000 BC, and we've got technologies of food production may have already been employed. Okay, so food production, employed means used, okay, so they're using food production on the fringes of the rainforests of Western and Central Africa, food production, Western and Central Africa. And you'll see I'm not writing the whole word out, right? I'm just kind of writing this. I might put a number too, so I know it's paragraph 1. That's helpful. Where the common use of such root plants, such as the African yam, led people to recognize the advantages of growing their own food. All right, so they're growing root things. They're growing roots such as yams. Okay. Now, because this is intro paragraphs are really important for a main idea because they set us up for the whole passage. So this is a great place to find a main idea. So that's why I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, and I'm going to read a little bit more. The yam can be resprouted, okay? This primitive form of veggie culture, cultivation of root and tree crops, may have been the economic tradition onto which the cultivation of summer cereal crops was grafted as it came into use south of the grassland areas of the Sahara's southern borders. Okay. Because this is the last sentence of the intro paragraph, I'm also going to take a few notes here. Okay, I won't do that for every paragraph, but this is an important paragraph. So I'm going to write down, we got roots, which I already wrote down, but then it later came cereal crops, right? Cultivation of cereal crops. And it came into use south of the grasslands, so I might put south or Sahara, right? And that would be my notes for paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, I can play a little bit more with just the first sentence and kind of move on. So Sahara dried up, pastoral peoples, these are the cattle herders, can't talk today, pastoral people. Okay, and they're working with cattle. Okay, so it dried up. They moved southward. I'm going to write that down. So they moved south along major water courses into the savanna belt of West Africa and the Sudan. Okay, so they're moving southward along the water, right? And I won't read for detail now. I'm just kind of going to the last sentence. Sometimes it's nice to read the last sentence. These cattle people may have moved between fixed settlements during wet and dry seasons, living off the hunting in the dry months. Okay, cool. We're going on to paragraph 3. Again, we're just on the search for main ideas. As was the case elsewhere, cattle were demanding. Cattle, demanding. All right. And I want to kind of know a little bit more, like why are they demanding or how are they demanding? They required water. Okay, they needed water. So that's why they're along the water routes. And large tracts of grass. They needed grass and water. The secret was the careful selection of grazing lands, especially in environments where seasonal rainfall led to marked differences in graze quality throughout the year. Okay, so they're trying to pick the best land for these cattle to graze on. Okay, and then I might maybe look at the last sentence. Now this is a little typo here in our text, but this is the last sentence here. Long before cereal agriculture took hold, some hunter-gatherer groups in the savannah may have acquired cattle and perhaps other domesticated animals by gift exchange or through raids on herding neighbors. Okay, so they were, right, before the cereal thing, before cereal, right, they may have acquired cattle by gift exchange. Cattle is a gift, or they raided. Raided means they just took them, right? So may have acquired cattle, yeah, by gift exchange or through raids on herding neighbors. So maybe they stole it from other people. Okay, going on, next paragraph. Contrary to popular belief, there is no such phenomenon as pure pastoralists, a society that subsists on its herds alone. Okay, so no pure pastoralist, not subsiding on not herds alone. Okay, so what are they subsiding on? What are they doing? They cultivated these other things, right? Cultivating sorghum, millet. So I'll just write millet, right? Then I'm going to go on to the next paragraph. Boom, boom, boom. Last paragraph. Cool. The process of clearance and burning. Okay, so we've got clearance and burning. And see how they say the? So they must have mentioned it in this paragraph, right? Last sentence, I'm going to go here. Shifting agriculture, often called slash and burn, was highly adaptive. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. Slash and burn. Whoops, that kind of goes with paragraph 4, doesn't it? But we pick it up again in paragraph 5. So ideas that come up in more than one paragraph are good indications that that's going to be a main idea. Oops, slash and burn. So they use slash and burn for cereal farming. And then they pick it up here. Process of clearance and burning may have seemed haphazard, but it was not. Okay, so it wasn't just random, it was purposeful. So I'm going to write down clearance and burning. Again, we have this idea. Then they tell me a little bit more. Let's read. And I pay attention to the last sentence of the last paragraph too, because it's a good place for a main idea, a kind of conclusion, a wrap up. So slash and burn agriculture expanded its frontiers rapidly, moving forward so rapidly that one expert estimated it took more than 2 centuries. Okay, so I'm not going to write that down, but it's just more about how clearance and burning, slash and burn, was this technique that was used. Okay, so I'm going to bring this all into one screen. I'm not even going to look at the text anymore. And let us now use our notes. What main idea requires is a lot of trust. Okay, so you want to trust your notes. If it's not in your notes, it's probably not a main idea. So if you choose this particular technique for your how to answer this question, if it's not in your notes, I wouldn't trust it, right? So let's come over here to some main idea sentences. Excuse me while I get our screen situated. Okay. So the very first thing that I want to do is I want to read what TOEFL thinks is a good main idea sentence. The technologies of food production may have already been employed by some sub-Saharan peoples by the end of this era. Okay, so production, food production. I go back to my notes. I'm going to stay with my notes. Let's go through and start to eliminate anything that doesn't sound like a main idea. Here we go. Food production started with the cultivation of root plants and developed to include cultivation of cereal crops. Oh, look at this. We have root, we have cereal, right? It started with the root, developed into cereal. And I know we've got some cereal mentioned down here too, right? The cereal farming. So I can't eliminate that yet. That seems like it's going to be a good one, okay? In order to avoid human and animal sleeping sickness. Wait a minute. Sickness? Anything about sickness here? I don't remember anything about animal sleeping sickness. I won't even read the rest of the sentence because my notes don't mention it. Okay? So I'm gonna keep on moving. By 1500 BC, cereal agriculture was widespread through the savanna belt of the Sahara, and shifting agriculture was used effectively and widely by farmers. Now, I do remember cereal agriculture, right? And the South, that was a mention. Sahara was a mention. Shifting agriculture, that was, I believe, mentioned in paragraph 4, right? Where they started to mention these other techniques, the slash and burn, right? So I can't eliminate that one. That seems like it might be a possibility, right? Let's see D. Pastoralists who moved south across the Sahara to find suitable land for cattle grazing may have also cultivated some crops for food. That was true because right there we got the South Sahara, that was mentioned, and we've got these mention of other crops. Remember the millet, and there was another one mentioned. It wasn't the herds alone, they were farming. So that could be I can't eliminate that. Hunter-gatherer groups in Eastern and Southern Africa raided their herding animals to acquire cattle and other domesticated animals. Okay, so the raiders were mentioned, right? But it was at the end of a paragraph, right? At the end of paragraph 3, that was mentioned. But I just want to be aware of this. This might be a detail, right? Because they also said they gifted the animals. It wasn't just raiding. So this is really specific. I would be cautious of that one. I'm not choosing it yet. Then we've got the ending F here. Let's see the whole thing. Slash and burn agriculture was initially rejected by farmers. Wait a minute. Rejected? They actually used it. There was no mention of they rejected them, right? That slash and burn. They were using it. So I have to eliminate F. That's totally false. E, again, was like a detail. And now I am, and I believe I have I eliminated E, I eliminated F, and I eliminated B because it wasn't mentioned. So as far as main idea goes, A, C, and D. A, C, and D would be our correct answer choices for this one, right? And I'm just going to check in with the chat just to see how you guys are feeling. And remember, the skim is something that you can do right at the beginning of your, you know, when some people like to have an idea of what the passage is like before they start answering questions. So it's something you could do right at the beginning before you start answering questions. Or it could be right before you answer this main idea question, you do a quick skim. And again, I know we took our time, but as you do this every time you practice, it'll get faster and faster for you. And I'll also show you a way you could do it without the skim, but know that you're going to already have familiarity with the text too, right, before you come into main idea. So you might not need to skim because you've answered questions 1 through 9 already, right? Okay, how we doing? Just drop me any questions in the chat if you need to. Do you guys want to do another skim to get used to it? Tell me in the chat. Yes, okay, cool. Cool, we'll do another skim. Awesome. So let's try it. And again, the skim is helpful not just for main idea, but for those questions that are asking, well, how is the overall passage organized, right? You'll have an idea. Oh, well, first they give a reason and then they give support for that reason. Or first they give a theory of one thing and then they give a theory of another thing. Or they're presenting maybe 3 or 4 different theories, right? You can get an idea of how to answer those questions when you do a skim like this. So let's check out another reading passage, and I'll walk you through how I would skim it. Okay, so we'll take a look at this passage, and got my notes over here on this side. Okay, so we got evolutionary biologists believe that speciation, the formation of a new species, often begins when some kind of physical barrier arises and divides a population of a single species into separate subpopulations. Oh, that's a lot of stuff. So important words to write down. I'm going to write down speciation because that's kind of the topic of the whole thing, right? And it begins when, and by the way, new species, begins when a physical barrier arises, divides population. So we got a physical barrier and it divides. Oops, if I can spell. Okay, divides the species. And we've got separate subpopulations. Okay. And then again, because this is the first paragraph, I take a little bit more time here just to read a little bit more than I do in the others because it's setting me up for the main idea of the whole thing. So we got physical separation between subpopulations promotes the formation of new species because once the members of one subpopulation can no longer mate with the members of another subpopulation, they cannot exchange variant genes. Okay, so that's pretty simple enough to understand, right? Can't mate anymore, no genes, no promulgation, they say promotion. So no new species, or no mate, I should say, no mating, and no gene exchange, right? Okay. In the absence of gene flow, genetic differences between the groups begin to accumulate. Eventually, the subpopulations become so genetically distinct they cannot interbreed. Okay, even if the physical barriers between them were removed, at this point, subpopulations have evolved into distinct species. Okay, species. And I'm going to write down the last sentence says this route to speciation is known as allopatry. So allopatry is this distinct speciation. Okay, so I know that was a lot. I kind of read every sentence, but again, it's my intro paragraph. It gives me a lot about main idea. It's setting me up. So now I go into paragraph 2 and I can go a little faster now. Allopatric speciation may be the main speciation route. Okay, so again, that allopatric is another key word. Main speciation route. Okay. And this should not be surprising since allopatry is pretty common. All right, common. So I know I read the first sentence and the second sentence. Sometimes when the first sentence is so short or it doesn't tell me a whole lot, I like to read the second one. Okay, and then I probably don't need to read, this is details, right? Giving me something there about how it's common. So I'm going to go on, paragraph 3, see what that first sentence is saying. We've got geographic isolation can also proceed slowly. Okay. Oops, also. And I might just write geographic isolation slow, but I just want you to notice this also, right? Also. So this might be about, it might happen not slow, right? So it might be a little bit more quicker, whatever it is. I didn't read it, right? But since they're adding on, can also proceed slowly. Okay, just want you to notice that. Over great spans of time, we find evidence of such extended events in the fossil record, which affords glimpse into the breakup, okay, blah, blah, blah. For example, okay, so in this example of slow geographic isolation, we've got glaciers, right? Glaciers during the Ice Age, and then they're going to tell me how it happened there with the glaciers. Okay. Allopatric speciation can also be brought by the imperceptibly slow but colossal movements of tectonic plates. Okay, so another way it can happen. So now I'm getting this idea of how this text is set up. It's like, okay, speciation. We got physical barriers. How does it happen? Well, we could have it slow through the glaciers. We could have it also slow through tectonic plates, these moving plates that make up the Earth's surface. Okay, you're going to tell me about that, blah, 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 details. Now, paragraph 5, moving right along. We got this guy, John Graves. I'm going to write his name down, Graves, and he studied two populations of closely related fishes. Okay, so he studied these fish, one population from Atlantic side of isthmus, the other from Pacific. Oops, Pacific. There we go. Okay, and this is what he did when he studied them. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Again, we're just skimming. So I'm going to go to now my last paragraph. Graves drew 2 conclusions. Okay, so I got 2 conclusions. I want to know, because this, again, is my last paragraph, so I want to pay attention to at least what's the first conclusion, what's the second conclusion, right? So first, we got observed differences between the enzymes of the Atlantic and fish populations were not random, but result of evolutionary adaptation. Okay, so we got some adaptation going on. Second, it appears that closely related populations on both the sides of the isthmus are starting to genetically diverge from one another, starting to diverge genetically. Okay. So that's my 2 conclusions. I probably don't need to read anything else, but just for fun, let's see the last sentence, right? Offers a glimpse of the beginning of a process of gradual accumulation of mutations that are neutral or adaptive. Divergences here might be evidence of allopatric speciation in process. Okay, so there it is. There's the example of allopatric speciation in progress, right? It's beginning. It's starting to diverge. Okay, now we got that. Let's come back over here and look at, we're so ready to select our 3 best main ideas because we're going to trust these notes. Right? No need to, go back to the text or freak out, right? We're going to trust these notes. If it's not in our notes, it's not a main idea. Here's what TOEFL thinks is a main idea, right? Allopatric speciation takes place when physically separated populations of a single species gradually diverge genetically to the point of becoming unable to interbreed. So they're just giving us that definition that we found in that first paragraph. Okay, here we go. Let's look. Allopatric speciation is common. Ooh, that was correct, right? Common. Because the gene flow between subpopulations is generally limited and the barriers that completely separate subpopulations can arise in a variety of ways. So I like this because we've got, it's common, and that was mentioned. I've got that in my notes. And also we've got the genes can't flow, right? They have trouble, they don't mate anymore, they're not flowing. And the barriers that completely separate subpopulations can arise. We got barriers, right? They mentioned the glaciers as barriers, the tectonic plates, and those are different ways barriers can arise. So yes, I can't eliminate that one yet. During past ice ages, some, but not all, subpopulations separated by glaciers evolved into distinct species. During past ice ages, well, I do remember the ice age with the glacier paragraph, right? And some, they're saying some but not all. Well, that's good. It's not extreme, right? If they said all subpopulations, that would be extreme. Some but not all, separated by glaciers. So I don't want to eliminate that one yet either, because I do have that in my notes, right? I'm trusting my notes. So let's keep it for now. Question mark. C says, speciation does not need to take place through allopatry because subpopulations will form distinct species whenever there are adapted advantages to not interbreeding with other subpopulations. I don't really remember this, right? But by the way, speciation does not need to take place through allopatry. But that seems really kind of counter to what the main idea is pointing to, right? This wants me to think about or select something about allopatric speciation. And this one is like, speciation does not need to take place through allopatry, right? So that kind of seems like it's not related to main idea. It's not a match for our TOEFL sentence, okay? I'm going to move on. D says physical barriers from glaciers and the movement of tectonic plates form so slowly that the subpopulations on either side of the barriers usually do not form distinct species. Wait a minute. It's all about how they do form distinct species, right? Allopatry, glaciers, tectonic plates, and they're creating these barriers and they're forming these distinct species. So once again, this is counter. This is kind of going against what all of my notes are all about and against what the TOEFL thinks is a main idea. So I'm going to get rid of this one. And let's go, oh, see, TOEFL loves to have two things. See how Graves is E and Graves is also F? So one of these about Graves has got to be wrong. Let's see, Graves' study of fish populations separated by the Isthmus of Panama may well provide a picture of the beginning stages of speciation. Well, that was true because we've got Graves mentioned right at the end. He got the fishes. They mentioned the Atlantic side of the isthmus. Yes. And we got in the last paragraph too that it was the beginning of it, right? It was allopatric speciation in progress is what he found. It was starting, right? The beginning, it was starting. So I do have a match for that in my notes. Let's see this one. Graves' study of physically separated fish populations show that there must be large differences between the environments of isolated populations if allopatric speciation is to take place. So I don't have that in my notes, right? It's just not there. So that indicates to me that even if it was there when he talked about environments, it's probably not that important. And you see how this one is a bigger picture main idea than F, right? So I eliminated F, I eliminated C, and I eliminated D. So I should be left with A is a correct answer, B is a correct answer, and E. Okay, so trust, trust, trust your notes and your general ideas. Okay, we're coming up on the top of the hour. Thank you guys so much for like bearing with me and like being on it. I'm gonna just check in with the chat and see if there is, will you discuss other types of questions? No, because today is just focused on the main idea. That's what this class is all about. So we're just focused on main idea. And by the way, it's a really useful thing to focus your studies on one particular question, especially if you keep noticing like, oh, I'm missing this one point, right? Analyze it, study it, and do main idea question after main idea question, because you'll start to notice the patterns, you'll start to notice the traps, right? You'll start to trust your notes more. I'm going to do one more with you where you don't even have to skim, okay? Because this happens to us on TOEFL where we're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time. I have, 2 minutes left. I have 1 minute, 30 seconds left, and I have to pick 3 sentences, okay? So what you would do is trust yourself. Trust this main idea question enough to lead you to eliminate anything that sounds like a detail, anything that sounds false, anything that sounds too extreme. We're eliminating, 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 and trying to match a sentence with this sentence up here, okay? So we can do it. And this time I want you guys to participate right in the chat. We are gonna like hammer out this.
The first or the first 45 minutes? The first, or
the first, yeah.
Hi there, whoever's. We got to get you on mute. Okay. So let's read the sentence together. And then I'm going to give you a few moments just to look over A, B, C, D, E, and F without me blabbing on. And I want you to drop some correct main ideas in the chat, okay? It is unclear why hunter-gatherers in different parts of the world independently developed agriculture at roughly the same time. So it's unclear. So here's what I would look for, right? Uncertainty, unclear. Okay, what are we unclear about? Why hunter-gatherers developed agriculture at the same time. So we don't really know why these hunter-gatherers were developing agriculture at around the same time. So look for sentences that are going to be like, I don't really know. It's unclear. It's weird. It's strange. Why are they developing agriculture at the same time? We don't know. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So we have some answers coming in on the chat. We've got a vote for A, C, E. We've got a B in there, BCE, BCF, BCF. Okay, great. Great, love it, love it, love it, love it. Let's do it. So now that you have your guesses, let's go through it. We've got one obstacle to the transition from a nomadic lifestyle to the sedentary required by agriculture was that hunter-gatherers had not developed storage techniques. So this one may be a question mark for me, but again, I'm on this hunt for, wow, it's so unclear. It's really like it's not clear or it's questionable, we don't know. And this seems very certain, right? Like one obstacle, they had not developed storage techniques, right? But I'm looking for uncertainty. It's not clear, or there's, you know, a possibility of this or a possibility of that. So this one seems unlikely for me right now because it's not clear. But look at this, look at B. It seems unlikely that agriculture emerged in response to a food storage brought on by a worldwide population crisis that developed once the whole world was occupied. Okay, so this one is bringing up like, well, it doesn't seem like this idea doesn't seem right. Okay, so that seems more of a match for my main idea, right? So those of you who are typing in B, I think you are right on it, right? It's a match for, it's unclear, it seems unlikely, like this idea is not a good one, right? Now let's look at C. We've got the origins of agriculture maybe linked to climate change at the end of the last ice age, but this doesn't explain. Woo! I love this one, right? It doesn't explain. It's unclear. We don't really know why earlier climatic instability had not led to agriculture. So this one for me is like super a great match for our main idea sentence here. Okay? So C is like great. Now, what about D? Do you guys recognize this? The only available means of understanding the social organization and technical abilities of ancient hunter-gatherer societies is the study of contemporary hunter-gatherers. Well, it's not a match for, it doesn't have that, oh, it's unclear, or we don't know why, or, you know, possibly it's this, but that doesn't seem right. And we've got this only available, right? And they're trying to understand hunter-gatherer societies. So this is extreme word choice and off our sentence, right? So I would eliminate this D, don't select that one. One recent theory, okay, so here's like an idea, possibility, I like the sound of this. One recent theory suggests that the invention of agriculture was made possible by the integration of various mental capacities in the human mind. Okay, so we have a possibility that they developed at the same time because of everybody had kind of the same or various mental capacities at that same time. So that seems to be a match for our main idea sentence. Look at this one. Little is known about why only some societies that adopted agriculture rapidly progressed to using metal tools, becoming literate, and developing a state. So this one, I kind of like it because it's saying little is known, right? It's unclear, little is known, that's kind of a match. But if you were to take a bigger picture, like zoom it out, like using metal tools, becoming illiterate, developing a state, it's really not about agriculture. Right? There's no, we want to focus on how they developed agriculture at the same time. Like that's a mystery, that's unclear, right? And this one isn't really about agriculture. So yeah, you guys that are writing E, I think is a better choice. And C, right, is my favorite choice. And then we've got B. So those of you who typed in the chat B, C, and E, you are correct. All right. And again, we didn't even skim, right? We didn't use a skim technique. We just used the technique of trying to match the sentence, okay, with the main idea. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share, and I know it's top of the hour, so if you have to leave, that's fine. But I want to open this up to any questions that you might have about reading in general, and you can feel free to unmute yourself if you want to, or you can type your question in the chat. I know I might have missed some that were going on before. Yeah, do you have an estimate of time that you should allocate for summary if you do skimming strategies? Okay, great question. So if you do a skim, it's probably going to take you, once you practice the technique, it'll probably take you about 2 minutes. That's what you want to try to do for the skim, right? 2 minutes of you just looking at it and writing it down, right? Sometimes I don't even watch myself write it. I'll just be looking at the screen and writing down some keywords. Okay, got it. So you want to give yourself about 2 minutes for the skim. So I would say, let's say you started the reading where you just went right into the questions. Okay, you went 1 through 9, right to the questions, and now it's time for main idea. I would say trust yourself first enough to start to eliminate some choices, right? And then let's say you are between 2 choices. Now you got like, oh, I don't know if I should choose this one or this one. I don't know if this one is a main idea or this one. Then do your skim for 2 minutes. So probably you want to allocate about 3-4 minutes of your time at the end for skim if you're going to do main idea plus skim. Yeah, but you'll be able, if you did 1 through 9, you'll be able to eliminate some of those choices already. And that's really the key, is not think about what's the best answer I got to choose. Think about what can I get rid of? What can I get rid of? What can I get rid of? And that'll narrow your selection down. Thanks. Well, you guys are great too. Do you have any questions for me? Anything else? I have on my YouTube channel, I have a thing all about how to allocate time, like depending on what strategy you like to use, if you like to read everything, if you like to skim first, or if you like to go right to the questions, and how to allocate your time there. Please share your YouTube channel. Yeah, it's TOEFL Land. So if you just go to YouTube and type in TOEFL Land, that is my YouTube channel. And I will share with you too, I do have an upcoming course. It starts on August 1st, and it's all about reading. And it's about reading comprehension. Okay, so I should preface that. So there are 2 really important things that you need for TOEFL. You need the strategy, which is what we just practiced, right? Strategy, 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 how to approach this question. But you also need the comprehension. You also need, how do I understand what I'm reading, right? Because sometimes, and you guys know, TOEFL's getting harder with the fact detail, with the inference, and all this. Sometimes we really have to read each sentence and just go in and dig deep. So this upcoming reading course is going to be all about comprehension skills, okay? It's going to be digging deep and learning new vocabulary and increasing your, just increasing your capacity, right? Your reading skills. So, so if anyone's interested in that, I'm going to drop the link there. And I will preface this with, this class is for women only. So if you're a guy and you want to take class with me, you still can. Just email me. And I'll drop my email in the chat too. And I do... Inference is hard. Yes, it is hard. I won't get into inference question today, but I do have a whole free course, again, on my YouTube channel about the inference question. So if you're wanting to review inference, feel free to check out that it's like a little mini class about how to do inference. And I have a whole course all about inference too, a digital course. And I'll drop that link in there for you guys as well. because I know how tough that question is, and that's why I was like, I just want to design a course all about the inference, because when you really get good at inference and you learn the traps of how TOEFL likes to trick you on the inference question, you know how TOEFL likes to trick you on every question. So if you really study the inference course, I'm going to drop that link right now. The inference course is there. And for anybody who's watching later on, I'll have the links below that we're talking about. So you can check out that inference course. Yeah, you're so welcome. How to work on my comprehension skill? Great question. Okay, so one way is to read. I know this is such annoying advice, but this is what it is. It's about reading every day. So choosing an academic text or source. So I like history.com. I like scientificamerican.com because that'll have this more sciencey stuff, nature stuff, and history, of course, self-explanatory. So I would choose an academic text to be reading. And it's not like you're going to look up every single word or write down every single word that you don't know. It's about choosing a couple of the words from the text that are new vocabulary for you, looking up that meaning and getting into the meaning. It's all about practice. That's right. Yeah, it truly is. And TOEFL's a journey, right? So some students, we have an expectation like, I'm going to take this test and I'm going to be done in 2 months, in 3 months. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer so that we can build those skills, because most English classes, right, that we've taken in our life, that you've taken, aren't focused on let's learn academic reading skills, right? It's a whole other skill set. And so we have to get used to it. So it does take a little bit of time to work up those skills for comprehension. Thanks a lot. A better approach for summary questions. Yeah, now, good. And yeah, feel confident, right? Really trust yourself, trust your notes if that's the technique that you're going to use, but also trust that you know how to match that sentence to the main idea summary sentence. Is it going to work for every single question? No, but you can eliminate some ones that aren't a match, and you can eliminate, the ones that are sounding like details, right? So trust yourself. Okay. This was great, you guys. And again, I will drop my email in the chat below. So if you want to get in touch with me and if you want to work with me, just feel free to send me a message. Time management, I have a whole thing on my YouTube channel all about time management for TOEFL, for the reading section. So you can just check out my YouTube channel for that, okay? Email me, Kirsten@TOEFLland.com. And again, if you want to take the August 1st course and you're a woman and you want to join in, just email me for more info. Yes, this video will be on YouTube. Okay. Thank you all so very much, and happy TOEFL studies. Thanks for being here this morning with me, and I'll see you soon. Good luck on your TOEFL, you guys.